5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Welcome to Planet Normal, the Telegraph podcast with Alison Pearson.
Hello.
And me, Liam Halligan. Co-pilot Pearson and I are on our summer break. But to help keep you sane, dear Planet Normal citizens, we're bringing you some of our favourite interviews from this year's archive, the discussions we've had on this, our rocket of right thinking, our flying refuge of reasoned views. Back in March, Alison delved into the case of Lucy Connolly, the childminder who posted a regrettable tweet following the Southport massacre of 3 young girls, which she quickly deleted. 8 days later, Lucy Connolly was arrested, denied bail, and given an astonishing 31-month prison sentence. Alison contacted Ray Connolly, Lucy's husband, with whom she has a 12-year-old daughter. Alison met Ray at their home in Northampton to discuss the devastating impact of Lucy's ongoing incarceration on their family. Lucy and Ray were bereaved in 2011 after their 19-month-old son, Harry, died due to NHS negligence, having been sent home from hospital despite Lucy's pleas to put him on a drip. Ray explains how Lucy's profoundly impacted by news of children's suffering or death, a mitigating factor apparently not given weight when she was sentenced. Alison began this important interview by asking Ray to recount the story of baby Harry.
She was made up with the little boy. He used to walk in the rooms, the whole room would light up with him. Even at a year to 18 months, he used to just walk into everywhere, and for some weird reason, you'd spot him straight away. You know, white blonde hair and whatever, and mischievous.
Did it make Lucy an angrier person, a more volatile type of person, more easy to... I know you said that these stories about children being hurt.
Yeah, I think... no, she wasn't really angry. She still got herself back on track. She wasn't going to let these people beat her. And she just went on, and she loved looking after kids and loved looking at... And when Edie came along, she decided that she would look after... So she jacked a job in a Barclaycard and just done childcare for like 10 years. But the kids still turn up here. It's their house anyway.
So when you came back on the day of the Southport murders, the little girls, because she was easily triggered by news of children's suffering or death.
She don't. When kids get harmed or anything, Lucy will be, she would just start round out.
Yeah.
And moaning about the government or whoever she feels.
So just to be clear, that the news that was coming out about little girls at a dance class had been stabbed, killed, that would be enough to make her in a very upset state.
Oh yeah, she was crying. She was scared to death because I thought almost like she was scared at that's why I couldn't get in the house because they'd left the key in the door.
So she had locked the door, so she was worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was here with the children she childminded.
Yeah. Normally I could get in with a key, but she'd purposely left the key in there so I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, what's going on? She told me that this had happened.
Yes. Had she been, since Harry's death, on medication? Had she had...
On and off. She'd have things what would set her off, if you know. Like this would set her off, and she'd have to go and get antidepressants.
That evening, about 8:30, she's on Twitter. Obviously, there's a lot kicking off on Twitter about a lot of allegations and so on. And then Lucy tweets her horrified reaction to the murder of the 3 little girls. Mass deportations now. Set fire to all the effing hotels, full of the bastards for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it. Now, when you hear me reading that out, Ray, is that out of character for Lucy? Is that Lucy very upset? What are you thinking?
She's very upset. But the racist, it's like I could stop this in an instant if I showed you Lucy with the kids. If I said, if she's racist, which I know she's not.
No. It's quite interesting that she says, I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. So that's her talking about her.
Well, she knows what she's... People, she's always heard people, Yeah, but if you have counselling, you get over it. I'd like to tell these people that you don't. You have to live with it. Well, because obviously Harry's situation was quite traumatic. We've took him down the hospital several times and they keep telling us there's nothing wrong with him, and we're overbearing parents, overprotective, sort yourself out. But there was just something wrong. Obviously, then the next minute we wake up to a dead baby in a bedroom.
Yeah,
which
is absolutely harrowing. Would you say that the target really, she was talking less about the sort of legal immigrants with whom she interacts and works and lovingly takes care of their children, that more what she's worked up about is illegal people who come and pose a threat? Do you think that's what it was?
Well, yeah, and that's what she said. She had her police interviews and went through it all, because the probation officer said that I've read everything, Lucy, and I'll be recommending a non-custodial sentence.
Right.
And then obviously it was coming up to the trial, and the probation officer got the criminal prosecution summary. She's going through it all, the probation officer, and Lucy goes, hold on a minute, I've not said that. She goes, this is police criminal prosecution from your interviews, because I've not said that. And Lucy did start crying because she got so emotional. She goes, who's seen that? Who has seen that? She goes, this is what's been released. And I'm reading it, I thought, that don't sound like Lucy, where it would say, like, Lucy's got a problem with immigrants walking our streets. That's what the criminal prosecution summary said. But I said, that don't sound like her. I rang Liam up, the solicitor, and I said, can you get the transcript from Northamptonshire Police? I don't think they'll give it to me, because Lucy's saying that criminal police are lying. And he's going, well, look, Ray, I mean, it's a criminal prosecution summary. I said, yeah, I know, but I'm mindful of the situation Lucy's in. I'm mindful of what I've been hearing on the TV from Keir Starmer and the Home Office condemning these people, labelling them as far right. So I said, I just want to dot the I's and cross the T's. I said, please, can you get it? But it took him ages to get it. And it was like 2 days before she was going to go to Birmingham. Yeah. Because I wanted it done in Birmingham, yeah. But I got it, and then Liam sent me the text message, and he goes, Ray, I've just been through it, and it's full up with wrong and misleading information. But that was the criminal prosecution summary.
Are you saying to me, you've mentioned Keir Starmer and the Home Office making very strong statements about far-right hatred, thugs and so on. Is there any suggestion that police might have been under pressure to produce a certain version of events, for example?
Well, for a version of events, what they've got, obviously I haven't seen the transcript, I'm only going what I was told. I did hear him talking, Liam, when he was presenting his argument about whereas Lucy didn't say she's got a problem with immigrants walking the streets. It was, I've got a problem with, like, unvetted illegal immigrants.
Right. And
they'd missed them, they'd missed that sort of stuff out.
We know that Lucy posted that tweet, took the dog for a walk, thought better of it, and seems to have taken it down. I've heard within 2 or 3 hours, the police, as you said, turned up that morning, 8 days later. Now, the first thing that shocked me was that Lucy wasn't granted bail. When you heard she hadn't got bail, was the solicitor surprised? Were you surprised?
At the end of the day, I had no idea what I was dealing with and who I was had to speak to, who these people were. So Lucy got somebody who was appointed. Now there's not a chance in the world to get a 6-year advocate defending Lucy. I felt, and then watching the TV, and I'm watching it all. I'm watching Keir Starmer talking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she'd already been condemned. They'd already made a decision. And she was the poster girl for whatever the narrative the government were going to start pushing out.
So bail is denied. She's in Peterborough jail. There's then a lot of the pressure to plead guilty goes up, doesn't it?
I mean, at this time, Lucy's got on really well with all these prisoners in there. I mean, there's a couple of girls in there. They didn't get off to a good start, and it probably weren't their fault for where they ended up now. One
of the solicitors is advising her to plead guilty, and she'll be out by Christmas. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, she's run. Basically, they're telling her, you haven't got a chance. You haven't got a chance, okay? And then obviously Lucy's listening to all the TV, and the girls in there going, "Oh, you're and your husband's all over the TV, Lucy." The girls in the prison have said, "Well, I think they already know you've had it, Lucy. I think even if you went into a jewellery, you might struggle." And even my brothers in America said, "Lucy's out there in America. She's on the TV. They're in New York, they were."
So she felt that the publicity about her was obviously so damning, so bad. She was racist, Lucy Connolly. That it was better to plead guilty and get out early with this reduction in sentence.
That's it. So I think she was pretty much told, look, if you plead guilty, Liam said 2 years, you'll do 40% of that. You've pleaded guilty, so you'll get a 33% reduction, which she didn't get 33 because she entered a no plea because she had no counsel. Lucy kind of worked it out then in her mind with sentence served, counting as double, with reduction. She could be out before Christmas if she pleaded guilty.
Yeah. Looking at what the mitigating factors she had, and one reason various people have said to me they think she almost certainly would have got off if she'd got to a Crown Court, is because she obviously had the history with Harry and mental distress from that. She had no, of extremely good character. She was a mother to Edie. You yourself, Ray, have not been that well, not always that well. So she's partly has caring responsibilities for you. And then we come to these references for Lucy from the parents of the little children she took care of. They talk lovingly about Lucy taking care of the children like her own, never any whisper of racism because she's taking care of black-skinned children, brown-skinned children, obviously had no issue. And in fact, there was an amazing detail, which was that I think it was one of the Nigerian parents that when Lucy was in the court, that had she written him some kind of recommendation for a visa?
Oh, yeah, she was a doctor. Lucy had filled all his visa papers in for him to get residency.
So this is a very strange kind of racist, isn't it? Filling in the visa application for an African doctor. And what struck me was reading the sentencing remarks from Judge Inman was almost no credit given to these many factors in her favour. Is that fair?
I did email Kemi Badenoch's team and asked her what she felt about all this. She got one of her assistants to come back to me, which she'd nailed it on the head and she knew what was going to happen. She goes, well, Ray, obviously this is a live case. I can't make any comment. Let's just hope that they use the equality of law and not make this a far right issue. As soon as Judge Ingham started talking about diversity and inclusion, I thought, oh my God, you don't know this. You've not read those letters from those people. These people, if anything happened to them, they would quite happily let Lucy keep those kids and look after them. As soon as he said that, I thought, obviously he's not read those character references because you wouldn't read them and you could see how they were wrote, not like AI, they were wrote from the heart. And they were just a 6. I could have got another 6 for him if you wanted to.
And one of the ladies said, Lucy's the kindest British person I've met.
I was on the train. I'm thinking, I'm going to get rid of this. I'll get rid of that. I'll cancel that. I'll cancel my golf membership. I'll keep Edie's gym membership. That's £33. I've already paid the golf membership, so that's all right. And just have to cut down on pretty much everything.
Because you'd lost Lucy's income.
Exactly, because she's obviously self-employed.
How did you break the news to Edie that Mum was going to be in jail?
Well, she was having a few issues at school. I went into the school and the teacher started talking about it to me. And was going, well, what's the release date of Mum? And I'm like, obviously, I've got Edie next to me. And I said, apparently the 21st of August. And Edie's like, broke down, bawling her eyes out. And obviously he's like, oh my God, like that. Because didn't you know, Edie? I said, no, I didn't. I was always trying to go day by day, like, oh, we've got this appeal, we've got this, we're going to put this thing in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I was always trying to put that date off. I was. So she did really upset about that. And I think but unfortunately, it's just a problem for me at school with her because she's got bad anxiety anyway now. But she's all right around the house with me and whatever.
One of the senior Teachers has written a really very nice letter explaining how Lucy's absence has impacted on ED's mental health, and saying if we are a fair and a just system, Lucy belongs at home with her child. I mean, that hopefully that will maybe be used with the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lucy's used that evidence and my own condition as supportive evidence for exceptional circumstances. But this is when I started to think, obviously there is a political agenda here. It must be, because all Lucy's appeals are late. So girls are putting appeals, they'd get a decision and she'd be waiting, and then she'd get a meeting with the governor and obviously denied. But this one for home detention curfew has been denied.
Just so Planet Normal listeners are clear, some of Lucy's fellow prisoners, she knows for a fact, have applied for some of these release type things and they've been granted and she hasn't.
Yeah, one of the inmates who Lucy was with, when she put in for home detention curfew, she'd killed somebody in a road traffic accident while she was on a phone. She was granted home detention curfew.
So that's what you mean by political. Now, in the documents that you sent me, which were the subject access request documents that have shown some interactions with probation officers, there are some phrases that imply that Lucy is viewed as a difficult, potentially notorious case. So one thing was talking about, you've upset people, Lucy, and the other was there are issues about media attention. Now, what do you make of that, Ray?
Oh, I just couldn't believe it. At the end of the day, if Lucy's going to have interest in the press now, I don't think they're going to be interested in 3 or 4 months' time on a release date, I'm sure. I said to Lucy, I said about social media, there's always got something about somebody or something, and you yourself. I said, but I've checked the ITV, I've checked Sky, and I've checked the BBC, and the last communication dates with you were like between the 17th and the 20th of October, and there was nothing else then.
So if she was allowed out for a day and a night or something, no one need know, need they?
No, because I said to her, I wouldn't drive back from Staffordshire to here, 4 or 5 hour drives. I'd stay up in that area with Edie. So they've got more time together. I wouldn't waste 5-6 hours in a car. No. I wouldn't, because obviously I need Edie to spend time with a man. Yeah. And hopefully she can sort her out.
Do you think that a probation officer or probation officers have been on Lucy's side, thinking that she should get the right of leave, and that there has been some disagreement with higher authorities about that?
Well, the first incident was Peterborough, internal probation officer. He was very supportive of Lucy and felt she would be given tag because of no previous or anything like that. So they filled out this form and it went to the governor, and then these are Lucy's words, not mine. Then the prison senior officer on the wing, Lucy said, "Where's Paul?" I said, "I need to speak to him about my appeal, my tag." And he goes, "I don't know, something's happened. I'm not sure." But what had happened, he'd had a row with the governor over Lucy, and he'd been signed off sick, apparently, and she'd never seen him again.
So have you or any of the legal team got any theories as to where this pressure is coming from?
Well, this is my own personal opinion. All I know is that whoever's making these decisions are outside the prisons, I would assume. And I'm saying that because there's a delay. So it's like the last Drake Hall, where she is now, the probation officer said, under normal circuit, this is a done deal, Lucy, for you to get home detention curfew. But you are Lucy Connolly. That's his words, not Lucy's, not mine. The probation officer, and unfortunately, it did fall flat on its face. She's not going to get that home detention curfew.
I should say that I consulted a prisons expert, and he said there is no way that Lucy's fame or notoriety or publicity should interfere with her right to get these release things. There was another person, I don't know if it was a prison officer or a probation officer, who said, "You're nothing like we thought you were going to be."
The officers turned up to take Lucy to court, and the two of them turned up. They come up to Lucy's cell to get her, and they said, "Look, Lucy, we really wish you the best of luck, and we hope you don't come back. You're nothing like the person we was told to expect." And then Lucy said, "Well, what do you mean?" Because, well, when you first arrived here, we were told to expect someone who's going to kick off and extremely violent. And Lucy said, "I've never even had a fight in my life at school or after school." Because I know that's what they spun us when you came there.
So this is a big question, and I don't expect you to answer it yes or no. Do you think your wife, Lucy, is a kind of political prisoner?
I think they want to use it as an example, if you know what I mean. Political, maybe it could be deemed to be that way, but I think they like the idea of Lucy still being in prison, just to set out a clear warning to people. You really need to watch what you say, and because the consequences are going to be quite horrendous for you.
Do most people you come across, I mean, you said you'd met someone on the dog walk earlier, saying, why are they being so harsh to Lucy? I mean, most people I've met and talked about the case can't believe the length of time she's in prison.
I mean, a lot of people are in shock because they know Lucy and they miss her going up to school. So people are always stopping me. I mean, sometimes you always wonder. I mean, some woman had stopped in the car. I was crossing the London Road and she got out. "Excuse me, I think it's absolutely disgusting how your wife's being treated." As regards to political prison, I think it certainly suits the narrative of the government to have Lucy as their poster girl. Probably would be the right word.
How far is Lucy from a far-right thug, would you say, Ray?
If she's a far-right thug, there's no hope for anybody. I mean, I can't honestly, I laugh about it. I just think, Lucy is the complete opposite of all that. I mean, she does have a moan about the politicians and the government, but we all do. But, I mean, as far right, she should give these people her last pound.
Yeah, I can tell she would. She's been moved, obviously, to this other jail in Staffordshire. How do you think she's doing in herself in terms of her mental state?
Peterborough, she was really good because there were some really nice people on that wing. Some great stories she's going to have to tell.
Yes.
I'll be here all day telling you about some of the people that are on her wing. Out of 32 people on there, she, within months, got on well with all of them. She ended up writing all their letters of complaint to the governor. That's probably why he got the ump with her, because obviously she was writing all the letters for her and to the MPs. Yeah. But obviously she felt that the governor at Peterborough was not playing ball, was not adhering to process.
Yeah.
So then she had no choice to put in for her prison transfer. I don't think she likes the prison where she is. The girls there see her as a Tory toff, because that's how it's been portrayed, I guess.
She's got the sort of grit to see it out.
She has. It's tough for her because they're youngsters, they're like kids. She's like the mother, she thinks they're almost like the children. Yeah. But there is a couple of them who have been extremely awful to her. But then one of the girls gave her a break last week, and it kind of like, what girls are like, I suppose, bitching and whatever.
Mean girls type thing, yeah.
But one of the girls came up to Lucy, who'd been giving her a hard time after about 3 weeks, and got to know Lucy and went up to her and said, "Look, Lucy, I just want to say sorry, and you're not that person they said you were." I like chatting with them, some of them, out of the army, they're in the army and all sorts. So crazy.
How is it when you go with Edie there? Is it hard to see her in that place?
No, we're cool. It's difficult leaving, I think, sometimes. I mean, I keep saying to Edie, "We'll ask the governor, see if we can have a sleepover." And he's like, she realised I'm joking. Yeah, but the first time I said it to her, she was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I can just see that, having a sleepover you at the prison."
But does Lucy get a bit tearful when you go?
Certainly not when we're there, because she wouldn't want to let Edie know that she was having a problem. I'll be honest, she is struggling now at the moment. There's no doubt about it, but hopefully they won't break her. I mean, because I guess that's what it's all about at the end of the day. At Peterborough, Lucy, the officers had total confidence in her.
But she clearly was a model prisoner in Peterborough because they were offering her, the better quality wing, weren't they?
They offered her to go, after she'd been there 8 weeks and she was exemplary, they wanted her to go on to the enhancement wing, but she wouldn't go on there because, as Lucy said, no, because such and such needs me here because she's got no friends and she didn't want to leave her there on her own. Mm. So Lucy stayed. I said, well, you banged up for like 20 odd hours a day, Lucy. Fast, you can just walk around. Yeah, I know, but this girl, I need to keep an eye on her.
We've just heard, haven't we, in the last few days that the Free Speech Union and the barrister they're using, Adam King, excellent barrister, have got an appeal for Lucy on the 15th of May. How hopeful are you that Lucy will get some justice?
Well, I'd like to see, for once, as the equality of law applied, and I do feel that, obviously I'm going to say this, I feel that the sentence for her was excessive. I say that, although I've got no legal experience, from what I hear, from what I see, from the sentencing I've seen on the TV for people who I think have committed far more worse or similar crimes, they seem to be making sure Lucy does the top end of anything. So I'm hoping, I'd like her to be a sentence shortened, I would, just to get out and just so she can help me with Edie, really.
Yeah, because Edie's missing mum a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine, well, as fine as can be. Lucy's doing okay. Obviously, the only person who's having a problem here is our daughter.
Yeah.
She's the only one who's probably Lucy's mum as well, but the daughter would be, that's the only problem, really.
I'm just wondering what, in these sort of 8 months now...
She just thinks that she's missed out on a really important time of Edie's life, as a 12 to 13.
Yeah.
A really difficult time for girls going through that time of life. And I just think Lucy would be missing that involvement, bringing and supporting Edie, going through that. It's difficult for me. She won't tell me anything. She won't, I say to her, hold on, Edie, I'm fine.
Because your dad, they don't...
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. But she thinks she's looking after me, you see. It's almost like she does all the cooking, apart from... Well, she makes a mess in the bedroom. I have to clean all that up every 5 minutes. But she'll make all the dinners. But Lucy will be missing Edie, missing the dog as well. I mean, that's why if I can get her released on temporary licence and I can go and visit her, I will take the dog because I think the dog misses Lucy as well. Because when I put it on loudspeaker, the dog starts jumping around.
Really?
Yeah, starts jumping around.
Can hear his mum. Does Lucy feel guilt what she's put you and Edie and family and friends through, do you think?
Of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, she knew it was a stupid thing to do at that time. Obviously, she walked the dog, come back and deleted it. But obviously, 8 days later, my son texted me. He said, Daddy, you seen on Twitter? I went, no, on Lucy's thing. I said, no, I haven't. I'm not on her thing. I'm not. He goes, it's all kicking off. I'll send you some, what she said. And her husband's a Tory councillor. And then, then obviously over days it had pictures of, those things like Edie coming up there, like Tory Foxington scum. She's only 3 years of age on a pony club.
You've had you said you respect your wife, she's a good person, she's not a racist. And you got some trouble for that, Ray, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I've got letters of complaint went in because obviously they said that I'm supporting Lucy. But I spoke to the people who know about racism, who are from the Bangladeshi community, the Nigerian community. They know about racism, I don't. And they said not a chance. So who do I agree with? A couple of Labour activists or these people who know about racism far better than me because they've had to deal with it. I haven't, other than people banter at work. These people have, and I've spoke to them. I double check everything, and not a chance. And that's what they all said. No way whatsoever, Raymond. No whatsoever. She's just a moment of madness.
What do you think in general? We've had a lot of publicity about people posting things on social media and then getting the police involved. Do you think it's gone too far? Of course. I mean, like those poor people who are on the WhatsApp groups moaning about the teachers. I mean, like, if Lucy would have been arrested long ago if that was the case. She's always moaning about teachers failing their own children and whatever. I just think a letter would have been precise from the school saying,
this is the situation. I just think they've overstepped their mark.
Yes. I wonder, what do you miss about her? You've said what Edie misses. You're very positive and cheerful. Do you have dark moments?
Of course I do. I sleep this night, so, I worry. I do joke in my mind. I'm thinking, I said to her today, because I'm going to write to the governor and see if I can have you around the house for 3 or 4 hours to tidy the place up. Let's do some washing. I miss her because obviously I'm struggling with her bills. I can't, simple things to try and sort out a phone bill. It's just a nightmare. I could do with her home here sorting all that out, just to tidy up bills before they get too big. I can just about manage to sort and pay out my own gas, electric, water, mortgage, and that's it.
Ray, if you had to, obviously you've got lots of Planet Normal listeners, what would you like to say to them about Lucy and the experience you've been through?
I think Lucy's just been thrown into this situation. It must have been so traumatic for her, but I'm so proud of her because I can't believe she must have a tremendous resolve to be able to cope with the hostility, not from prisoners, but from the authorities as regards to her to get home and see her child fairly. Everything it always seems to be something in the way. And she just cries, she does break down, and then she gets up the next morning and she's ready to take them on again, and she does. And I'm hoping that they won't break her. I mean, it's tough. She's got like 4 months for her sentence to finish, I think, conditionally. And I'm hoping that she can hold on and not let them get to her. Because Lucy was a good person going in there. She really was. And I want that person to come back out.
She will. I hope she will. On behalf of Planet Normal, Councillor Ray Connolly, I want to say how amazingly you've been coping with this terrible situation. I think you should be really proud of yourself. Resilience and strength that Lucy's shown. I don't think she belongs in prison. And we hope she gets out very soon and is back home here with her wonderful husband, daughter, and very nice dog. Thank you so much.
All right, cheers. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
In April, Allison and I were joined by Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch. Elected as Conservative MP for Saffron Walden in 2017, having previously been a member of the London Assembly, she quickly rose through her party's ranks, serving as Secretary of State for Trade and also Business Secretary. Chosen to lead her party in October after last summer's general election defeat, Badenoch became the 6th Tory leader in 8 years. Since then, she hasn't rushed out new opposition policies, but has made statements on gender ahead of the Supreme Court's judgment and net zero, describing the 2050 carbon emission goals her own party previously set as, quotes, simply impossible. Welcoming Kemi Badenoch back to Planet Normal, we asked her whether Keir Starmer should apologise to former Labour MP Rosie Duffield in light of the Supreme Court verdict.
Kemi Badenoch, welcome once again to the rocket of right thinking, Planet Normal. Kemi, we've just had this landmark Supreme Court ruling that a woman is born female at birth. I know that you personally came under great attack during the bruising battle for women's spaces. Keir Starmer slapped down his then MP Rosie Duffield for saying only women can have a cervix. He said it wasn't right to say that. What do you think now about the man who is Prime Minister denying biological truth in that way? And should he have apologised to Rosie Duffield?
I think he absolutely should have apologised to Rosie Duffield. I was actually shocked that he did not, because she was hounded out of the party for saying what he now accepts to be true. And I think we got an insight into the character of the man who is Keir Starmer. And that is that he does not believe that he is ever wrong, does not believe that he needs to apologise. And he pays lip service to things like women's rights. But the way he treats the women in his party shows that it's just for political expediency. He could not bring himself to even acknowledge that he had done anything wrong. And what was most surprising to me was them pretending that they had held this position all along. That's what the Education Secretary did yesterday. If she had come in and said, well, now that the Supreme Court has made this decision, we're going to change our policy. We recognise this is where the public are, and we're moving on, it would have been a lot harder for me to respond to them. But because they said, oh, we were here all along, it was you guys' fault. It's just extraordinary. I mean, if it hadn't been that I was the person who received all the abuse that they put out, I would probably have checked my notes and thought, oh, were we on the wrong side of this? So blatant was the dishonesty. But I'm glad that we got the measure of them.
Kemi, do you think the Tory party needs to learn lessons here too? Clearly, the country got itself into this position where trans ideology seemed to grip our mainstream political and media class very tightly. While you were in government, Minister for Women in particular, you did a lot to move the needle. I think a lot of people recognise that. You initiated the cash review, which was pivotal. But what lessons do you think your party also needs to learn for the role that it played in getting us into the crazy position where we need a Supreme Court and an 84-page judgment to tell us what a woman is?
There are a lot of lessons for my party to learn, a lot of lessons. And, I became an MPA in 2017. And by the time I got in, this ideology had sort of taken root. It wasn't something that many people talked about. It's all very well Labour saying you have 14 years, but 14 years ago, no one was really talking about this. And it's not something that just happened in the UK. All over the Western world, we saw this extremist ideology take root. It's actually an international thing. And one of the lessons that my party, I think, has now learned is that sometimes just because everybody agrees on something doesn't mean it's right. And that sometimes you have to pay attention to things that don't look like big issues. And this stuff was allowed to seed for a very long time because many people thought, well, we don't talk about this. We talk about the economy, just ignore it. This is a niche issue. And also believing that this was how you showed support for people who were LGBT. But actually, if you want to show support for a particular group, you need to start from first principles. What is it that we're defending? It's freedom to live your life as you wish, but that also means that your freedom stops where other people's freedoms begin. And by not looking at the principles and just going along with what many people have been saying initially, we ended up just allowing extreme activists to take root. So another lesson, for instance, is all of these external organizations that want to help give guidance, Stonewall being the classic example, they have no business being in government. We have to watch out for the left smuggling itself into institutions. So we've learned a lot of lessons from that. But what I found when I became a qualities minister was that there was quite a lot of support on the Conservative benches. It wasn't just me who got things done. Sajid Javid was really excellent on the CAS review. He had great health secretaries like Vicky Atkins and Steve Barclay. But by then, the blob had taken over. The obstruction that we had, not from all the civil servants, there were some great ones who were even helping, but some people just trying to stop us meeting people like Keir Bell, not discussing the issue. You need the strength of your conviction. That's the bottom line.
This is a two-part question, Kemi. We saw JD Vance at the Munich Security Conference raising concerns about the decline of free speech across Europe, singling out the UK. I wonder if you share his concerns and think that a Starmer government has been a threat to free speech. And then coming on to this very welcome announcement from the Conservatives, plans to scrap the non-crime hate incidents, the bane of life at Pearson Towers, I have to add. You've talked about putting forward an amendment to the government's crime and policing bill, banning non-crime hate incidents, except where a senior officer thinks the information would assist in the detection or prevention of a future crime. I do think that's a great step forward, so thank you for that. But I am a bit concerned about that wiggle room. Why not ban NCHIs altogether?
Because it's all part of investigation. What happened to you, Alison, let me be very clear, was wrong. This is a classic example of the police wasting time. We discovered through research that 60,000 hours of police time are wasted on these issues. And it's not just people looking at what's going on social media and not liking someone's post. Things like mobility scooters on pavements, that's not what the police are there for. And we need to make sure that the police are out there catching criminals And you asked the question about JD Vance and do I think free speech in this country is disappearing? I don't think it is disappearing, but I do think it is under threat. I don't think Labour understands the importance of free speech, how it is a core British value. I lived in a country that didn't have free speech. The government would quite happily disappear people. When I lived under a military government, they'd just disappear and no one would ever see them again. So that's not where we are. But when you look at some of the rhetoric that we hear from Labour MPs, a lot of authoritarian stuff. We have Labour MPs talking about blasphemy laws. That's not free speech. They haven't brought it in yet. But we need to be very vigilant that we do not allow the erosion of core principles like freedom of speech in the UK.
A month ago, Kemi, you gave a speech on net zero. It was quite a brave speech. You said that meeting our 2050 net zero targets was, quotes, simply impossible. Quite a lot of people criticised you for that speech, but it went down pretty well with the public. And some people would say you actually moved the needle on that speech. Are you pleased with the response it had? And when are you going to make your next policy speech of similar importance?
So, yes, I am pleased with the response to my net zero speech, and more will come on net zero. The bottom line is that the net zero plans we have are an impossibility. We can't do net zero by 2050 the way the government's doing it, or even the way the previous governments had looked at the issue. We cannot bankrupt our country. We cannot deindustrialize and send all of production and manufacturing to China. You look at what's happening with British Steel, for example. You look at what's happening with trade tariffs across the board. We are deindustrializing. Energy costs are too high. Household bills are going up. We need to make sure we look after the people of this country first. And we do need to look after our environment. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying climate change isn't real. But you solve these things in sensible ways, not by trying to reduce emissions to net zero when China's building a coal-fired power station every other week. We can't do it on our own. Britain is only responsible for 1% of emissions. So how do we do it? With sensible policies, things that people will be able to do themselves without being impoverished. That's what we're about now. And you asked about when the next commission will come. Yes, there will be more. I talked about doing more on integration. Alison talked about these non-crime hate incidents. There's so many things that are interrelated. The amount of immigration that's come into our country, how we make sure that people who are here belong in this country, want to contribute to it, are not taking anything away, how we make sure that we preserve our values, how we deal with the lack of social cohesion in the UK. Government talks about these things all the time, but I don't actually think it has solved them. I definitely don't think Labour has any ideas how to go about solving these things. If anything, they pander to all sorts of sectarian and community groups when they should be more visceral in objecting to some of the alien values that are coming to our country.
I've been very involved in the case of Lucy Connolly, childminder, wife of a Tory councillor, who was jailed for 31 months for a very offensive tweet she posted in the heat of the moment on the day of the Southport massacre of little girls. Lucy had lost her own child in harrowing circumstances and was extremely easily triggered by the death and suffering of other children. I was grateful, Kemi, to see you speak out on Lucy's case. Do you have concerns about two-tier justice in the surrounding Southport and in general? And what do you make of the fact that probation officers are telling Lucy just in the last few days that they've never seen anyone so clearly meriting leave at home being denied it?
Well, I think this is, I do have a concern about two-tier justice, especially when we see Labour releasing prisoners in the way that they have, something we never did. They're releasing prisoners, some of whom went on to commit murder on the day that they were released. The idea that Lucy Connolly is somebody who can't even get temporary leave to go home and see her children. That's what really bothers me. That we may inadvertently start giving the impression that the government has certain types of crimes that it wants to punish in a particular way rather than what the law says. Everyone should be treated equally and fairly. And I do think that she will. I think my understanding is that there is an appeal going on. I do think that she should appeal. I don't condone what she wrote. I think it's really important that I don't condone what she wrote, but in the grand scheme of things that we are seeing, just last weekend, we saw these extreme trans activists defaced statues, demand that J.K. Rowling be killed and the women be hung. Where's the crackdown on those guys? Labour's silence on that issue.
Ahead of the local elections, Kemi, are you surprised that in quite a few opinion polls now, reform are ahead, not just of the Tories, but the Labour Party too?
No, I'm not surprised because Labour's doing a terrible job. They broke promises. They made promises to get elected, said that they would freeze council tax. They haven't done that. They said that they weren't going to put taxes on working people. They snatched away winter fuel payments. What is extraordinary is that a government that should be in its honeymoon period, it's only 9 months that they've been in government, is already polling so low. And I'm not surprised that people are going to protest parties because we just got kicked out of government last year. It's going to be a real challenge to get to earn the public's trust. It took 14, 13 and 18 years respectively for oppositions to come back into government over the last sort of 30 years. We're not going to do it in 5.5 months. So people will go to protest parties at this stage in the electoral cycle. What I need to do is make sure that I have a compelling conservative offer, one that is authentic, that people recognize as being the conservatism that they want to see in this country. And I remember campaigning recently, and a man told me that once upon a time, if somebody knocked on your door with a blue rosette, you knew what they were selling. And now it's hard to know what it is that we're selling. And that's my job now, that people understand what conservatism for 2025 and beyond is about.
Earlier in the podcast, Kemi, Liam was talking about the way that Starmer needs to be really focusing on getting this US trade deal, but is ideologically tacking towards the EU. We're seeing some watering down of Brexit going on at the moment, some realignment. If you were Prime Minister, would you be reversing any of these anti-Brexit measures? And where do you think he needs to be looking now for Britain's future?
The fact is, Alison, and as both of you well know, the public voted to leave the European Union. There's no point us leaving if we're still going to be rule takers. That means that we get the worst of both worlds. We don't get the benefits and we still get some of the disadvantage. So anything that cuts across that, we oppose. I haven't seen exactly what the Prime Minister is doing. I think he is completely at sea. They should be focused on getting a UK-US trade deal because we got quite a way negotiating with President Trump until President Biden just scrapped all free trade agreement negotiations. What Starmer needs to do now is to pick up where we left off and make sure that the trade deal we get isn't us giving concessions away to have what we had last month before the tariffs. We need to have new things that are of mutual benefit to both countries. But I worry because Labour can't negotiate. You look at what they did with the Chagos Islands. They lost this AstraZeneca deal, hundreds of millions of pounds, which we had negotiated. What they're doing now on trade with the EU is it just feels like a mess. They don't have a strategy. Look at the negotiation with British Steel. They've made a mess of that. Now we're talking about nationalisation. We have a business secretary, a trade secretary who has never, ever worked in the private sector. Our business secretary has never worked for or in a business. He couldn't even find his solicitor's regulations. That does not give me any confidence at all.
You, of course, were Trade Secretary, Kemi. You negotiated with a number of US states, sort of trade memorandums of understanding, kind of junior trade deals. So you do have a lot of experience in this area. Do you think there could be some method in Trump's madness? He's being almost universally panned by economists for his approach to trade policy. Is there at least a chance that his shock and awe tactics could ultimately lead to less protectionism rather than more?
I would be surprised if he gets that result. I think that he's trying to negotiate the way he does, real estate deals, where you play hardball and eventually people have to, really lowball their offer. But as Reagan said, when you have these tariff wars, all that happens is that everybody starts slapping tariffs on everything else. I think the method to the madness, as you described, is that this is an economic nationalism. This is a man who is very much about U.S. interests. I don't care what's happening anywhere else. I care about my country first. And while I understand that, I don't think this strategy is actually going to work. Yes, of course, we all want our countries to succeed, but the UK is a trading nation. We got wealthy from trading, so we can't do what he's doing. It will cause us problems. Just look at what's happening with car manufacturing, where Jaguar Land Rover has paused its exports. But this is where we need smart negotiators working for Labour. Instead, Labour's got rid of our most experienced trade negotiator, Crawford Faulkner, and they got the unions in. They're not going to negotiate anything sensible.
Kemi, you've had some criticism for not being the fiery Kemi that some people thought they were getting at Prime Minister's questions. I was wondering, on a personal note, how that sort of arena, that great cauldron of Parliament, what it's like to do it as the leader of the opposition, and what sort of effect it's had on you and the family. I mean, do you ever have moments where you wake up and think, God, why have I got this job?
No, I knew what I was getting myself into, Alison, and it is a very difficult job. People say it's the most difficult job in politics, but I do enjoy it because for once I have a chance to shape conservatism in a way that I believe is right for our country without having to make compromises with the left in a way that's actually damaged us. And you asked what it's like being in the arena. It's very different from what you see on television. So I have a challenge in terms of doing what works in the chamber and what works on TV. When you're watching it on TV, what you don't see is that there are actually very few Conservatives, and you've got about 500 left-wing MPs. Remember, the Liberal Democrats, SNP, Greens, they're all there, well to the left of Labour, and they're all screaming and shouting. So you hear me quite well because you've got a mic, because I've got a microphone and the TV picks it up. But in the room, it's actually very hard to be heard. So I'm making an effort to also work the chamber and ensure that my backbenchers can hear me, and while also looking calm. So when people say that they're not seeing the same Kemi that they used to, they forget that I was on the government side then, and I always had the last word. But there are also things that you learn the more you do it. I've never been leader of the opposition before, so you don't it's not the same as being an MP or even being a Secretary of State. So there are things that you have to do differently. So every week I'm getting the experience in that means that I know what's working, I know what lands well, what doesn't land well. And what people see with politicians is in a way that you don't do with any other job. You get to watch us as we're learning on the job. And every week, I believe I become a better leader of the opposition. And I've learned that PMQs is not a court. I was trying to prosecute the Prime Minister with lots of deep analysis and stats. And actually, it's more like panto, sadly. It's more like panto, people going, whoa, and, they said this and they said that. You have to cater for the two audiences, the people who are just watching because they want to show, and the people who want to know what's going on in the country, and the people who want you to speak on their behalf. And those are the people that I care about. The people who have problems, who don't think that Labour is serving them, and they want to know that someone is in Parliament speaking for them. And that's really what my job is.
What do the kids think of Mum at the moment?
They don't see it. They don't see it. They're just annoyed that I'm always going away. So they had to go on Easter holidays without me. They went away without me because I'm campaigning for the local elections. But I think it'll be worth it. Everywhere I've been going, I'm telling people that this is not an opinion poll. You may want to just express an opinion, but you have to live with what you vote for. Look at Birmingham. Some people decided not to go out and vote, and then they got rubbish on the streets and rats running around. Vote Conservative because we deliver better services and lower taxes. That's the message.
Kemi Badenoch, thanks for appearing once again on Planet Normal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us for this latest edition of Planet Normal. We'll have another selection of this year's best of interviews next week, and Alison and I will be back with the very latest news and views from beyond the bubble on Thursday the 4th of September. In the meantime, keep the emails rolling in to planetnormal@telegraph.co.uk.
If you enjoy Planet Normal, jolly well hope you do, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a rating and a review on Spotify, the podcast app, or wherever you listen. It really does help others to find us.
And as we speed away from our beloved Planet Normal and the madness of Planet Earth comes back into view, thanks as ever to our producers Cass Ho, James Hodgson and Louisa Wells. Stay safe and in touch with us and with each other until next week. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.